This series is part of phase 2 of the library's Peggy Barber Tribute Grant through the American Library Association. We received this grant last year. It is named after a library leader who was passionate about programming, and this grant goes to libraries who are looking to do programming series and reach out to communities that they have not necessarily reached out to before. So we have centered this grant on disability outreach and engagement for phase 1, which started last May. And we have activities meant to build connections with various people with disabilities and the organizations that support them. So we have been alternating monthly between accessible and welcoming activities like board games and yard games and craft classes. We have also added a bi-weekly Read Aloud book club in partnership with Advance. We are excited now to bring the wider community into this project by providing opportunities to learn about and engage in discussions about disability issues. As you can see in your program, there are various event opportunities spread throughout the year for the community to attend, and I encourage you to mark your calendars for these great events. So with that, all of the official stuff out of the way, I would like our panelists to go down the line, and if you could just pass the microphone to each other and say your name, what your disability is, and then answer the question, if you can, how does your disability impact your daily life and how you move through the world? We'll start with that question. So go right ahead, Joseph.
Oh, hello, my name is Joseph Riola. I have schizoaffective disorder and type 1 bipolar disorder. So those are invisible disabilities, not visible. How that affects me is I am very geared towards knowledge. I have been that way my whole life due to disability. I'm very isolating when, I just need to shut down for the day. So it helps guide me, help make me who I am, and it's made me more of the scholar that I try to be.
Good evening, I'm John Staub, and my disability is hearing loss. Was profoundly hearing impaired for 35 years, had the hearing of about 10%, normal person's hearing, and then one morning I woke up and I heard nothing more. So fortunately, I've been able to gain a correction in having cochlear implants for the last 26 years. As far as how does it affect me, obviously I wake up every morning without these on and I cannot hear anything. So I'm reminded of my disability every morning, but at the same time, I'm able to function relatively well in the hearing world with others who can hear. So I feel like I bridge worlds at times, and I think to appreciate the challenges that people face with whatever challenge that might be, and at the same time, I can taste a bit of the fruit of what it's like not to have a disability, and so I'm negotiating those spaces on a daily basis.
Rory Bertram, and I've had over a dozen concussions. So, well, my disability, like I said, it's concussions, but it also caused a learning disability. And my whole education and my career has been very difficult. Just trying to learn and process everything. And I guess my biggest thing is you can't see a learning disability. You can't see like a brain injury. So to everybody else, I probably look like there's nothing wrong. But like a friend said, we're the walking stick.
Hi, my name is Izzy. I'm 100% blind. I have type 1 diabetes. Maneuvering a sighted world being blind, I would say, is very difficult, but you learn to live with it. And what I take from it is just having patience with myself. I can do almost anything people can do, just at a different pace.
Thank you all for that introduction and initial question. So our next question is, what kinds of disability-related challenges do you experience in your life, at work, at home, or just in Brookings in general? And I will tell you right now that not all of you have to answer every single question. If you want to answer, just let me know. And we'll navigate this like a conversation. So
For me, because I do have the learning disability, it's been difficult for me to go to work some days, not to work, go to work, but I have brain freeze sometimes. I work in a busy restaurant and I literally, my brain freezes. And I'm currently reading a book that is talking about when you do have like brain injuries, you need to slow down and let yourself have a break. And so it's really hard some days, but I'm gainfully employed.
Can you repeat the question?
sure. What kinds of disability-related challenges do you experience in your life, at work, at home, or just in Brookings in general?
So as a student, it's an invisible illness. So there are some days that I can't do it. I just can't do it. I just need to basically sleep and just rest and not interact. Just because, I'm either having a flare up or I'm having, I have PTSD as well from when I was in elementary school. When I was younger, the way that the schools handled people with disabilities was totally different. We were sent to a school called VIS, which was this building on a school campus. It had no windows. It had little cubicles, and you sat those cubicles for 8 to 9 hours. And if you made any movement that they seemed threatening, they threw you on the mat. And so for me, I still get flare-ups from that. And so there's some days I just need to shut down. And some teachers don't understand it as the issue that they just don't know the history. And I just don't want to go into the history because it's long. But that's the thing, that's the only thing is when you have a physical injury or a physical disability, people can see, oh, well, he's walking with a limp. Oh, this person's in a wheelchair. But when a person has a physical disability, you're like, oh, that person seems fine. But you have no idea what they've gone through that past week, or they've gone through that past month, or even their entire life.
Anyone else like to answer? Izzy? Perfect.
I have a couple things that being blind is hard. One, I will never be able to see my 2 daughters get married and walk down the aisle. My kids, I have 2 stepkids. One is my real daughter. I've never been able to see her. Everyone says she's beautiful. Well, I have to take their word for it. And that's one of the hardest things I've had to deal with. Also, just making it to the bathroom without hitting the wall, it's an accomplishment in my book.
Thank you all. Yes, Travis.
Have you been blind since birth?
No, I've been blind 9.5 years. And it happened within a 6-month period.
Thank you for the question. There will also be an audience Q&A afterwards. Don't worry, you're fine. Other questions are totally allowed to. This is, again, a conversation. So, yes.
Joseph, do you get accommodations at SDSU?
So I do.
Is that right?
Just for clarity's sake, because we're on Zoom too.
So I do get accommodations. However, they are narrow. There's not really much that, for example, with the idea of missing class, there's not much they can do about that. So for me, it's professor on professor basis. Most professors who have had me now for 5 years, they know my situation. They know my family history. So the department I'm in, I have 5 majors. So they know who I am and they know what I've been through, especially when I had COVID and I was out for almost 1.5 years. They know what I've gone through. So for them, they don't really need the ADA. The ADA is just basically a paper saying, okay, we can basically go extra on top of what they have for ADA.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for that answer. So we're gonna move on to how have institutions like school, work, government, businesses treated you regarding your disability, and how have individuals treated you in regard to your disability?
I'll take a stab at that. I was educated in the 70s and 80s as far as my primary secondary school, and I've been hearing impaired since birth. So certainly what they knew then was much less than what they know now. So the idea of accommodations was something completely foreign to most teachers at the time. They put me in the front of the class to cross my fingers. Fortunately, my father was a college professor and my mother was an engineer. So I had well-educated parents. I was an only child, and whatever I wasn't getting in school, I was getting at home. So obviously, family is incredibly important to support any of us with a particular challenge. And as far as institutions, I think for the most part, I never used a disability services office in college or graduate school. I've always learned how to manage my situation myself. And I come from New Jersey, so I don't have that South Dakota of self-reliance gene, right? So put it that way. But I learned at an early age, my father said I had to figure out a route in order to get to wherever I wanted to go, and I couldn't depend on anyone. But as far as helpful people, individuals, it's really important to let people in as to what your challenge might be, and to have them appreciate to the best of their ability what you are facing, and understanding that I'm not creeping over you looking at your note to steal something. I didn't catch that word. Those types of things. So I developed my own system of note takers and my own systems of studying, and I probably studied 4 or 5 more times than many people in order to get. I was a German major as well as a history major in college. So imagine learning a foreign language without hearing. And so I figured out some strategies, but I had a lot of help along the way. I don't want to say that I did it alone by any means.
I'm like to the first gentleman who was talking about the BIS. When I was in 3rd grade, I was put in a dummy box, which is what I called them. They're 3-sided, and you were not able to look outside of that box. And that's been how many years ago? And I still think, call them the dummy box.
So, my primary and secondary schools were rocky. They did not know how to handle people who had mental illness. In the early 2000s, that was not something that was understood. Even going into high school, which was the 2014-15, I was told I was never going to graduate high school. I was told I was never going to go to college. I was told I was never going to amount to anything because I had an illness. And teachers just were cruel. And it follows you around forever. With this, in Phoenix, they got away from this practice, but it was 2007, 2008. If you did not listen, they basically slammed you on a mat, and they held you there with the person on your stomach. Person had their knee on your back, and they were there for 5 to 10 minutes. And they held you there until you calmed down. And then they helped you up, and they told you to clean the mat and then go back to your chair. And that's how schooling was for me. I didn't enjoy schooling. I enjoyed doing stuff on my own that I can learn, but schooling was not fun. And I did not get that till SDSU when they started treating me with respect. The 88 people at SDSU have been the most helpful to me. Because sometimes, I haven't been able to make it to class. A year ago, I missed almost a full semester of class. In 2020, 2021, I was a year and a half from COVID. And my dad had died from COVID. So, I had that trauma because I watched him die in front of me. So, that kind of trauma just destroys you. Even years later, it never, ever ends. You'll be sitting there watching TV and something will flash back. And that's just how it is. It's an invisible illness that just constantly pings you, constant.
Missy, did you want to answer?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. How have institutions like school, work, government, and businesses treated you regarding your disability, and how have individuals treated you in regard to this?
So as for individuals, I think family is one of my, coming from a Hispanic background, they don't understand that I happen to be blind, but I can still do things. So I would say that my family sometimes is my worst enemy, because those of you that know me know that I have my own woodworking business and I deal with a lot of heavy machinery. And my family is always like, don't do it, you can't do it. I'm like, do it, I'm stubborn, I'm gonna do it. And those of you that do know me know that, I mean, one of my biggest mottos is, I'm more stubborn than my disability. And as for institutions, here Brookings has been really good. I've only ever had one issue with the post office on Main, but they've corrected their issue and I've been really good with everyone here in Brookings.
Thank you. So we kind of touched on this, and if we have already run it out, then we don't have to continue. But what are the implications of having a visible versus an invisible disability?
Right in front of me. I think, obviously I feel like I need to explain things to people. I think I'm more visible now with these particular types of speech processors on my head than I was with hearing aids. With hearing aids, people think, oh, you've got some form of like a Walkman, dating myself, but the idea that it's you're listening to music or something, you're not hearing impaired in any way. So the behind the ear type of hearing aid is more and more connected to, like, they're having AirPods, for example, whereas these things make you look like Frankenstein sometimes. So it's becoming more visible, even though it's not a visible disability. But I've always felt that I need to explain to people my situation so that they can help me. And I've always used humor to do that, to try to just make it less serious. It's my reality. Yes, it's serious and frustrating at times, but to dwell on that, I don't think is my nature. I try to lighten the mood a little bit, and then I then make up. You don't need to tiptoe around it.
That's okay. We did touch a lot on it. So, but thank you for that answer, John. So what kinds of disability-related resources have you received or not received in Brookings or South Dakota in general, I guess, and why? Okay, let Joseph go, and then we'll let Izzy go after.
So in South Dakota, well, I lived in a small town called Freeman. Freeman's 100 miles south of here. They didn't have any mental health services at all. In that town, if there needed to be anything, they would hold you until you be transported to a Vera in Sioux Falls. In Sioux Falls, though, I was able to get a psychiatrist, and I've had the psychiatrist now going on almost 11 years. But up here, other than the counselor I had for about 5 years, there really isn't resources up here for me. All my resources are down in Sioux Falls. So for example, my psychiatrist, and then any hospitalization services I would need, if I need to be hospitalized for anything, that would be down in Sioux Falls, to a Vera, because Sanford doesn't offer that. They do not offer inpatient psychiatric services at Sanford. So I'd have to go to a Vera, which Vera is mixed when it comes to psychiatry, at least people I know. some people love it, some people hate it, but you know, it's just how it is. I mean, it's a small community here. The state's only got 800,000 residents. When I was in Phoenix, it's a whole different story. You got 6 million people. And so I compare my time in Phoenix when I was hospitalized in Phoenix to here. They're two different things. But I felt like I got more services and caring here in Sioux Falls than I did in Phoenix. The doctors care more. They actually listen to you. And in Phoenix, they're basically, it seems like they're just there for a paycheck.
Okay, Izzy next.
So services that I've gotten here in South Dakota are a lot better than what I was getting in Florida. In Florida, it just seems like it's a million people, millions of people. So it just took way longer to get services in Florida. As for services in South Dakota, I went through the service to the blind and visually impaired. My first go around with them, they helped me open my own cafeteria. And I ran my own cafeteria for about 1.5 years. And then my wife got pregnant, so I became the stay-at-home parent. And I would say about 1 year ago, I opened my case up again with vocational rehabilitation, and my self-employment got approved. So we're just waiting on it to go through the system, and I will be getting a whole new wood shop through the service to the blind and visually impaired.
That's amazing. Laura?
For me, I kind of touched on earlier, but there was no help available. When I was going through college and flunking all these courses, there wasn't the help available. Several years ago, I was going to go back to school and become a nurse. And before that could happen, I'd been accepted and everything, but before I could go to college, I had a car accident that left me with one of my concussions. But you can also make it, you can either be positive or negative about it. And I've chosen to be positive. Not all days, but most of the time, I've chosen that I can do it. As for work, I lost a lot of jobs because of my disability, because they don't understand that you're slower. There's some things you can teach me 5 or 6 times and I still won't get it. And so that's been difficult here in South Dakota. It's maintaining a job.
I have not accessed vocational rehabilitation in South Dakota, but I have. I was just out of graduate school and had no money and needed hearing aids, and I was a professor at a small school in Iowa and connected with vocational rehabilitation. I didn't even know what that was. So in explaining, sometimes when you're explaining something about your situations, people come up and say, hey, there's a resource for you. And I wouldn't have had any idea what that was. I'm a big fan of just knocking on the door of vocational rehab and letting them know what the situation is.
Thank you. So, oh, yes, Dell.
Has online computer stuff been able to provide the kind of services you need?
So has online technology helped provide services that you need?
So Sanford has virtual visits. There are some days I don't like leaving the house. For example, there was one time I wasn't out of the house for 9 months. So there are some days I just don't want to get in the car and drive an hour because I fear something's going to happen or something. So I can just do a virtual visit. As long as I'm in South Dakota and I have a South Dakota address, if I'm anywhere in the state, I can meet with the physician in Sioux Falls. And for me, that's one of the best things about the internet. It doesn't really work for primary doctors, but for psychiatrists, they already know me. I've been with them for 11 years. So I can just do a virtual visit an hour and basically I don't have to leave my house. I can sit and I can have my iPad, because I have my iPads that go with me everywhere. And I can have something playing on the iPad while I'm doing the visit. Because that's, for me, I can't just sit still. I have to have something going, usually at all times, unless I'm trying to think of something or I'm in, a public setting like this. But when I'm at home or I'm in a meeting, I usually have something going separately that I will just have. That way I'm not, that way it just goes back and forth.
Anyone else? Busy?
I would say that the telehealth has been a game changer, especially being blind. You can rely on people to a certain extent, but when they call you the night before, it's like, oh, I can't take you. You're like, so the telehealth has helped a lot. And the Sanford telehealth is a voiceover accessible, which voiceover is what lets me do what I do on my phone.
Anyone else?
And just the technology itself, I can remember growing up watching the cartoon, The Jetsons, and having George Jetson talk to his wife on TV, and polluted sidewalks haven't happened yet, but that visual conversation, which to someone who couldn't hear very well, the lip reading that took place in that, I was always jealous. And wow, wouldn't that be great if I could have that type of conversation? So, the pandemic, unfortunately, was a terrible event, but it ushered in much more visual communication for me, at least. It was very helpful. But then I think our colleagues on the panel show you how that technology can be used to bring resources into your room that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. I'm assuming, Izzy, when we talk about accessible computer technology, text to voice, for example, and being able to access information that you might not have read or been accessed to before.
I mean, I would rather be blind now than 40 years ago, because technology is a game changer, and it lets me. I do my own books for my business on my phone. I answer emails. I answer Facebook when somebody wants a cutting board. I mean, like I said, I'd rather be blind now than 40 years ago.
Thank you. Yes.
I was going to say that we've been looking into a program called Speak Out for my husband who has Parkinson's.
Sure.
And they offer that program, but you have to always go an hour or maybe to Rapid City area or somewhere. So I found some places in North Dakota that said that they would do whatever. And then they were concerned, and this was a concern of mine too, and I don't know if it's going to happen, that you cannot get, even though they have their license for South Dakota, unless you have your insurance for North Dakota, you sometimes can't get programs for the therapy. And that's a big, I don't know. I mean, the program originated in Texas, and they said, well, you have to have a licensed person. I mean, they're licensed people, and that's frustrating.
Yeah. Those hoops you have to jump through are wild. Okay, let's see. Oh, yes, go ahead. Pass down to Izzy.
The disability part is tolerable. It's the insurance that is more of a headache.
And I oversee the office on campus at this DSU that works with international affairs. So international students who are coming, students who study abroad and go out. And so when we think about mental health counseling for students who are going out for a semester, there's no way a South Dakota counselor can maintain their counseling relationship with the student who no longer physically in South Dakota. So there are some licensing issues, I think, perhaps some insurance issues as well, but it's complicated and we get very frustrated.
Thank you.
I was just going to say this. So prior to the pandemic, spring 2020, I went to live with my dad in Arizona. And because my counselor was here in South Dakota at SDSU, he did not have a license to practice in Arizona. So for that spring 2020, I had to basically go without a counselor, and I had to go out on my own in Arizona because there was no one. My insurance is here; it's in South Dakota. Does not work in Arizona. My counselor is in South Dakota. He is not in Arizona. And then in June of 2020, my dad died, and I was forced to come back here because there was nothing there for me. There was no services to help me at all.
So my next question kind of ties in a little bit, but what are your support systems and networks within Brookings or South Dakota? And how do you utilize your support networks? Not necessarily services, but those people or organizations that help you get through life. I'll let Lori go.
For me, the brain injury support group was wonderful. For many years, I thought I was lucky because concussion isn't that big a deal compared to what I've seen my friends go through. It's only been the last probably 8 months I've realized that the concussions I've had has led to physical disabilities. So yeah, it's something you learn how to work with. So.
The support systems that I have and that I belong to, I'm first vice president for the National Federation of the Blind in South Dakota. I'm part of the Lions Club, and I'm part of the Disability Awareness Committee for here in Brookings County. And you just have the support systems are out there. You just have to look for them. And for those that can, I mean, ask somebody. Somebody knows somebody that knows somebody.
As I might have hinted earlier, the way I've always approached my disability, there's something that I have to manage and that I need a team. And if that's family and it's friends. So when I think about resources in Brookings, South Dakota, that's almost unlimited to me because my friend network is international. I speak 4 languages. I need that for my own stability. I too am a member of the Brookings Disability Awareness Committee, so Izzy is my colleague on that. And certainly it's nice to talk about these issues. It's nice to help other people find access or find resources that might help them with their situations. But I think it's important to live life and not set limitations for yourself and bring other people into your situation. They will help you get from point A to point B. And otherwise, I think I would go stir crazy. Not want to do very much.
I've also been blessed because I have an amazing support system. Outside of the brain injury support group, I have a lot of very good friends or family that I can call and talk to. And my current workplace has been wonderful. They understand and they're willing to help me out when I do struggle. And that's something I haven't always had. It's only been within the last several years. But you can't expect someone to come to you. You have to put yourself out there.
Joseph go and then Izzy will go after.
So my support system, that's my psychiatrist, but also my mom. I don't drive. So, if I want to go to an event, and that's how, for me, that's my fun. When I go to lectures, when I go to events, cultural events, that's kind of my out. That's my way of, learning stuff and, being present with people. So for example, I've gone to many lectures with Dell for almost 5 years now. We've gone to events together. And having that and then having Beta Bus to get me around is the best thing in the world because I can't really walk that far. I have long COVID. So for me, if I have to walk all the way to campus from Western Avenue, it's gonna take me probably a couple hours. When I can just ride the beta bus, give them a chip and get on, be there in 20 minutes after I drop some people off, it's just the best thing in the world. And for me, that's one way, you know, if I wanna get out of the house or if I wanna, you know, be with people, I know I can just take the beta bus, I can get to campus, or I can get to the county government center for a commission hearing. I'm able to do stuff. I'm not just locked away saying, well, you're stuck here because you don't have a ride.
Right, see?
I forgot to say, through everything, through all my blindness, my wife has been there. And she goes, she had to go through my blindness, just like I went through it. And she saw somebody she loved lose their sight. And she's been there since day one. And I went blind 6 months after we got married. And she's still with me.
I have a question
Yes.
about the Disability Awareness Committee. Is one of their functions to help people find the resources that they need?
So what is the function of the Disability Awareness Committee, John?
Yes.
If you could
what's
speak
it?
into the microphone, that would be great.
Well, we have a former chair of the audience as well, so she can help us out. No, I think the Disability Awareness Committee, certainly we're trying to shine a light on disabilities in general and making people aware that the city is certainly trying to make its government activities and facilities accessible in a variety of ways, and it outlines on the website just how the city has a disabilities and that's with ADA coordinator and such. But we are a number of us have disabilities, a number of us don't, and some folks on the committee are working with local organizations and bodies like Advance or the Brookings County Youth Mentoring Program, Boys and Girls Club, those types of things. And what activities are those folks doing? And I personally feel that the committee is to shine a light on the activity taking place in Brookings to support the community. What are the accomplishments of the community, the community members with disabilities and so forth. So we showcased, for example, the local soccer club that has had accessible activities for young people. We brought in Advance, we brought in the school district. And in doing so, we sort of, as we showcase one organization's activities, we often wonder, well, what's missing? What are we not seeing? And I think as we shine the light on certain groups in the community, we're learning that we need to do a little bit more work. And I think this is going to be a transition year in developing the mechanisms to facilitate those types of information sharing, as well as connecting people with the resources. So if your organization needs beta bus tokens to go to a certain event, we may be able to help those types of conversations. Izzy, do you want to add anything?
The committee has a lot of different disabilities where if you reach out to one of us, we'll know where to go, what kind of resources you need. So it's just like a resource bank, pretty much. That's all I had.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Kathy. So I'm the library liaison for the committee, so I absolutely love going to those meetings and getting to work with folks. So a next question. Do you have any examples of pride and or empowerment around your disability?
So I'm in college right now. I'm graduating in December. I will be the first person in the state of North Dakota or South Dakota to graduate 5 bachelor's. And I was told that I was never going to be able to do that. I was told I was never going to make it here. And I did. And that's the one thing that I will tell people, you can do it no matter what people tell you you can do it. I studied abroad twice, even though I have a disability. Even though I had to take medicine, I was able to go to Germany for 3 weeks. I was able to go to Canada. And the one thing that I have is people telling me I can do it. And that's the one thing that kept me going. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. I would be long washed up on the shores. But the people who poured into me have made me who I am today. They made me successful. And the people at SDSU and at USF, where I was at for a semester, have made it to where I am the person I am today. So.
My speech therapist told me I would never be able to learn a foreign language, so I, as a freshman in high school, took 2. Was valedictorian, was a Phi Beta Kappa, was a Fulbright scholar, earned a PhD. So there's always been detractors along the way, and people who thought I couldn't do something. And obviously, that motivates you to a certain degree, but you also have to be motivated. I only had 2 majors, but I was very motivated to get them and to earn the degrees. But the idea that not everyone is your champion, not everyone is cheering you on in life, and developing a thicker skin. And what do you think it was like to have acne, braces, and a hearing aid for the first time within 6 months? It wasn't an easy thing at the age of 12, and people teased you and people laughed at you. Teachers might snicker at times, but you sort of have to keep your eye on the prize, as Joseph has, obviously, 5 teachers. Like, now one can do that, it stay sane, but teaching one subject was hard enough. But I think that peer pressure and all that sort of stuff, when you're 12, that's a big deal, and it can break you, and you need that support system early.
I would say, number one, graduating from college. Because, like I said before, back in the 80s and early 90s, there was no help like there is for people today. And for being gainfully employed, it's been a struggle, but I finally found something. But like I said, it's a struggle, and I need to be proud of myself that because I am on disability, and I do get up and I go to work. And that's hard to do some days, but I still do it.
My pride is just waking up in the morning to 3 beautiful children, a beautiful wife, and being a stay-at-home parent. Being a stay-at-home parent has to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And I am a father to a type 1 diabetic, which I am the primary caretaker for her. And every time we go to the doctor and her A1C is below 7, I start throwing a party. And even the doctor's like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I have no idea. Just get up every day. And I do what I do to show them that no disability, nobody should ever put you down. And if they do, use it as fuel to get you motivated. I own a successful woodworking business. How many people have heard of a blind woodworker? I'm a lot. And I still can count to 10. But that's what I do. I mean, I do for them.
Izzy, may I ask how old your kids are?
I have a 20-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
3 cats and a dog. And wife.
I
Joseph?
think Joseph wants.
Okay. Let Joseph.
So it was the summer of 23. I was kind of getting bored with what I was doing. I was doing 18 credits. I was bored. I was bored. And so I decided to push myself. Well, that summer I took 29 credits. And I loved it. It was fun, you know, and I got to visit other schools while I was at it, you know. Well, in the fall, I was like, I think I can do this. And I did 37 credits. And I had people behind me saying, you can do it. And I basically got a 3.1 GPA that semester. That was my highest GPA I ever gotten in college. But it was the fact that the people, not only at SDSU, but also at ASU, Oregon State, and the other colleges I went to also supported me while I was going through that. And that is what helped me. Because for me, learning is so much fun that it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like a chore at all. I mean, that's why I've taken over 80 classes in college. It's fun. You know, you get to take different things and learn, and that's, I think, the beauty, and that's, I think, what my disability has taught me is that you can always learn, and you can always grow, and you can always level up. There's never a plateau at where you stop.
Okay. Yes, Travis.
Well, when I was in college, I used to take 13 credits and then drop 15 parole. What do you want to do when you get parole?
What would you like to do when you graduated, Joseph?
So I'm going into possibly counterterrorism, dealing with Islamic extremism, focusing on groups in the Sahel region in North Africa.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here because this has been a nice long discussion, and I'm so sorry for keeping you hostage, but like this has been good. This has been a good talk. So first of all, what are some things to keep in mind when interacting with people who have disabilities? And along with that, what would you like the audience to take away from this conversation tonight? So you can answer either one of those.
You don't truly know what someone's going through. Even if you see that they might have a disability, you don't know everything. And asking questions and being inquisitive and being respectful are some of the best things you can do. Some of the people that have come up to me and wanted to learn, I've engaged with them. But if people are not willing to learn, people are not willing to engage and experience something new, then they're going to falter. Because as a human, you have to be willing to learn and engage with new ideas, new cultures, new experiences, and new people. That's what makes this world go around. Without that, this world is a stagnant, stale place. And that's what I want people to take from this. You can be the ambassadors. You can help, change the landscape. You can change the argument. You can change the voice. You can stand alongside us and help us. And that's what I want you guys to take from this, is that you guys can also lead the change. Just because you guys don't have a disability that we see, you guys can also lead the change.
It's hard to follow that up. But we are people too. Blind people are people. We can do almost anything you can, just at a different pace. The only thing we can't do is drive, but that's gonna change hopefully pretty soon. And just, if we need help, we would ask for it. Don't always assume that a blind person needs help, because we take a lot of training on how to use a cane, and just, if we need help, we will ask for it.
I think you've heard us talk about difficulties and sometimes at times we dwell upon them, but you've also heard us talk about networks of support and how we can overcome some of the challenges we face to lead full lives. And I think the one thing I would like people to take away from this conversation is that everyone is a potential asset in someone else's life. And you might not think that you're helping someone or having an impact on someone by asking that question, but it might just, to ask that clarifying question about one of our situations might just be the splash of cold water, and then, that we needed to get over that bad day that we were having. And so we can all be each other's network. We're all potentially support system for one another, which, to Joseph's point about how the world works, taking that extra minute to help, to try and figure out how to help someone. I work with people from 80 different countries on a regular basis, and I can't even profess to be a master of 3 languages, really. So I know exactly what I don't know. I'm confronted by it each and every day. And, so if that's a physical disability or a learning disability, trying to take that time to figure out how to help someone is time well spent and often appreciated.
With that, thank you all for your very candid and open responses to my endless questions. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and then let's do a round of applause, and then we'll do audience questions. Audience that hasn't asked questions of it. Oh, well, not, you can go ahead, yeah.
No, I was just wondering about Izzy. Have you ever had any interest in getting like a seeing eye dog or anything? Or do you have one? Or
I used to have one, and when I applied for it, I was working at the time. And then when I finally got it, I wasn't working, so I wasn't using the guide dog like I should. So I ended up returning it, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because it's a lot different walking with a dog than it is walking with a cane.
Do you feel steadier with the dog?
Steadier and more confident. Because the dog, you can actually, your mind can wander with the dog. Because the dog will stop you from walking into traffic. It'll stop you from getting hurt. But with the cane, you have to be more aware of your surroundings.
Thank you. Any other audience questions? Okay, I'll check real quick to see if there's any audience questions on Zoom. I don't know if our audience is still there even. Okay. Nima just says he is my friend. I don't know which he, but Nima says hi. So that's about it.
Michaela, I just thought
Yes.
of one.
Yes,
Since
please.
we're meeting in a library.
Yes.
What kinds of library services have you found helpful? Or are there some library services that you wish we had?
Yes, please.
So I do audiobooks. It's hard for me to sit there and read something. I listen to a lot. I listen to probably closer to 6 hours a day of news. And I will bounce between like French 24, DW, Al Jazeera, Al Qaeda, and I'll just do that. And that's how I process stuff. If you give me an article and put it in front of my face, I'm just gonna sit there and it's gonna gloss over. But being able to listen to audiobooks, and I will go back and I'll listen to stuff 3 or 4 times, just so I can understand it. But for me, to understand it and to gain knowledge, the problem is a lot of websites, especially foreign websites, that are not in English, don't translate well. So for example, like CNA, which is a Singapore news, or Arirang, they kind of don't translate well. NHK, which is Japanese, doesn't translate English at all, so you're kind of just guessing based on pictures. But if having audio to text really helps me, because I'm gonna be like, I can look at the pictures that they post and I can just listen and then enjoy the article.
Do you use Libby, the audiobook and ebook app from the library?
It's on one of my iPads. It's not on my other iPad.
Okay.
It's on my iPad with the bigger speakers, not the little speakers.
I was gonna be like, no, use Libby.
So
Libby's
there
my
is,
favorite.
there is a program for visually impaired people. It's called BARD, which is a program through the Library of Congress. And you can get free audiobooks through it. And I know a lot of my blind friends, I use it as well. And if you know anybody that needs it, I mean, I can always get information.
So I love reading and I love to hear. I've got a gentleman who's blind and I've got a gentleman who's deaf. Which do you prefer that you not lost one of your senses? Does that make sense?
I would rather be blind than deaf.
Why?
Because I'm not muted to the world and I love music. I love listening to my kids fight. I mean, it would be hard to be muted to the world. I'm thrilled with not hearing sometimes. I'm probably the happiest deaf person. Although I never really gained an appreciation for music as a kid. And I can appreciate now because these devices are wired for human sound, human voice, rather than the very intricate, complex nature of music. So I'm satisfied with the way it goes.
And personally, I can't listen to modern music. It makes me angry. Most of the artists I listen to are from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So, Richie Valens is my favorite artist. And I just can't listen to the modern stuff. It just, the sounds just irritate my ears and I want to throw it across the wall.
So you're not a Swiftie.
Not
No.
Swiftie. Any other question?
I have kids, so yes, I am a Swiftie.
No, I was just gonna say for, Joseph, it seemed my son and mom,
So yes,
we've always had to, since he started college, buy the audios to go with all of his textbooks.
Oh, sure.
Because, so it's been a godsend because he just can learn so much faster hearing than he gets distracted when he's reading. So it's just very easy for him just to put on his headphones and just, he can whip through a book in no time when he does that. So I am very grateful. Yeah, it's extra money out of the pocket because I'm a single mom, but you can't put a price on.
Well, plus the benefit about that is with my headphones, I can be listening to it, and then I will usually have the news on the TV while I'm listening to it, and that's how I'm able to process it. And so sometimes I will also be listening to YouTube so sometimes, with my setup, I will have like News Nation on the TV, and then I'll have like Al Jazeera or DW on one of my iPads, and I'll be watching the other iPads, we'll see to it, book. And that's how it's processing for me, and I love it. And this is just the way I learn. It's kind of weird, but it's the way I learn.
Yeah, I had a student once who couldn't process anything she read. She was able, maybe 5% of what she read, she was able to retain. She was an honest student. She's a bank president today. I had bought, for the library, bought a 26 volume set on the history of the world from beginning to end. And I was the end. I was in the second half of it. But she would watch those and she would do just fine. She was able to get the foundation that she needed. And I think that's the point I'm making about what your path is. You figure out that path. Audiobooks might be yours, or it could be a video series, or it could be somebody reading it to you in person and having a conversation. So we're a very plastic group of people in mankind, and anything can happen.
Well, if there are no final questions, I'm looking at the crowd. Anyone with hands up? Okay. Well, that was a good hour. Perfect. We ended literally right at 7. That's amazing.
I was just gonna say something.
Sure.
For everyone here, go forward and be change makers, no matter what it is, no matter what way you do it. you can leave here and be a change maker. No matter if it's regarding this or that, you can be a change maker in your community, your workplace, or your home. You just gotta go forward and do it. That's all I requested when you leave here.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Well, thank you to everyone who joined us tonight for our first event, I guess, in the Disability Education Series. It is a series. It's a long drawn out series because it's running through the rest of the year. But we hope to see you at future events. So check your programs that you have in front of you for a list of upcoming events. And I added some book recommendations because I can't stop myself. I love book recommendations. So there's a whole page of book recommendations that go with disability education. And hopefully we will see y'all at more events.